Welcome back to Zimpapers Television Network, where we are continuing with the National University Debate Competition with me, your host, Robin Kandiwa. We've had 4 very exciting debates, and if you're just joining us now, you've missed out on quite a lot. You will find out that the people that we had here on the podium, well, Themba Mliswa has got nothing on them. We've got the 5th episode of the day, and the topic is Availing Condoms in Zimbabwe Prisons, a false start in curbing new HIV infections. That's Availing Condoms in Zimbabwe Prisons, a false start in curbing new infections. We shall have the first team, the Affirmers. Student 1, introducing yourself, your name, and the program that you're studying towards.
My name is Ngonidza Shemwaruta. I am studying forensic accounting and auditing at the Harare Institute of Technology.
Student 2 of the same, may you do the same.
I'm Telio Gondo from Harare Institute of Technology, and I'm studying electronic commerce.
We shall have our opposers. Student 1, please state your name and the program you're studying towards.
I'm Eugene Brandon Swindi from Lupane State University, studying development studies.
Development studies. And may student 2 please the same.
Hi, I'm Saitachisiwe Gwaza, studying in Lupane State University, Languages and Communication.
Perfect. That topic, yet again, Availing Condoms in Zimbabwe Prisons, a false start in curbing new HIV infections. Just for your perhaps, you should know that these very interesting debates could never have been possible without our sponsors, without the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, without SAYWHAT, and of course without the Norwegian Students and Academics International Assistance Fund, SAYH. We shall have 3 minutes of the affirmative opening speech by student number 1. That shall be 3 minutes, which commence now.
Pleasant day to you all, esteemed audience. So for the purposes of this debate, the affirmative delegation has taken the courtesy to redefine the motion as follows. The provision of condoms in Zimbabwean prisons, a delusive beginning to lessening the intensity of new HIV infections. Now the main argument that we're going to be presenting to you in this debate is going to be based on the fact that we, as the affirmative delegation, are not dismissing the provision of condoms. We are not saying that we do not want to see condoms being provided to prisoners. By no means. But what we are saying is that it is not the first step that we need to take if we want to reduce the intensity of new HIV infections in Zimbabwe. Now, for the purposes of this debate, the main points that we are going to articulate to you include the following. The fact that availing of condoms in Zimbabwean prisons is a reactive and responsive rather than preventative measure. The fact that we think that the first step that we need to take to reduce new HIV infections in Zimbabwean prisons is actually education. The fact that we actually have a problem of choice. And finally, the fact that our efforts are more required on the fact that we need to lobby for the legalization of homosexuality rather than to simply provide condoms and think that we've solved all the problems. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start by explaining the first point. Now, the availing of condoms in Zimbabwean prisons is not something that is entirely wrong. Like I have said, we do not believe that it is something that it should not be done. But what we are saying is, according to our redefined motion, is that it is a delusive beginning. We cannot start by providing condoms because we do not think that providing condoms is going to solve all the problems that we have in terms of new HIV infections in Zimbabwean prisons. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because providing condoms is a responsive and reactive measure. It is not preventative. When you provide condoms to Zimbabwean prisons, you are treating the symptoms and not the cause. So by simply providing condoms, we have not done justice to the problem. And the problem is that people in Zimbabwean prisons, they do not know some of the problems that are involved with some of the sexual relations or some of the homosexual activities that they undertake while they're in prisons. Now, for our point, we believe that the first thing that we're supposed to do to lessen the intensity of new HIV infections in Zimbabwe is to actually provide education for the Zimbabwean prisoners. Why? Because some of these people, they do not know the hazards of the homosexual activities that they're going through. Some of them, they don't even know how to properly use condoms. Some of them, they do not know that there are other ways in which they can enjoy themselves without having to go through the hazards of the homosexual activities that they're undertaking. Now, our second point is that our second point is that we've got a problem of choice. Now, by simply availing condoms to people, you give them a choice to either use that condom or not. And we cannot simply say that by providing condoms, we've solved the problem, because somebody can simply look at the condom and decide not to use it. I come from Harare Institute of Technology, whereby you've got condoms that are readily available to all students, but sometimes you go into the toilets and they're always there and they're not being used by the people, because it is a problem of choice. We cannot just say that we've provided condoms and we've solved the problem. Thank you.
Very, very intriguing. I'll just touch on 3 quick things. Of course, he delved into touching up on this topic, which says availing condoms in Zimbabwe prisons, a false start. And then he gave us his interpretation. Very interesting. It's like some would want to say the early bird catches the worm. Some would say the avian creature preceding all others comes in possession of the wriggling invertebrate. Of course, he talked about other ways to enjoy yourself. I will want a couple of notes after this. As we go to the opposers' cross-examination, student number 2, 1 minute, starts now.
Do you understand the science behind the instinctual gratification or libido?
Yes, I do.
So you don't understand the agenda setting. So what are the measures that we are seeking? Are they proactive or reactive?
Pardon me?
The measures that we are seeking, are they proactive or reactive?
They are reactive.
Also don't understand. So are you privy to the fact that sexual desires are not stripped out because people are in prisons?
Well, they're not stooped up because people are in prisons, yes, but what we are saying is that...
So you agree with the agency that we should provide condoms as the primary basis. Thank you. Do you understand the fundamental basis of availing condoms in prisons, and do you agree with it?
The fundamental basis of providing condoms in prisons is to reduce the new HIV infections, and we're saying that it is not the only way that we can do that, and it is not the first step that we need to take, because some of those Zimbabwean prisoners are not educated as to how to use those condoms, and probably they don't even know how they can help them. Pardon?
How are condoms not reactive?
For a moment there, I was reminded of my mother. Now, the opposers' opening speech, student number 1, 3 minutes, starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have all been misled by the affirmative side. Condoms are a preventive measure, which is not reactive by nature, but it is proactive. What is reactive are arts or other clinical ways of preventing HIV and AIDS that look to deal with the problem after it has occurred. Condoms in this specific debate go hand in hand with education. We'd like to recognize that education, yes, is important and it is significant. However, education alone does not guarantee the aversion of new infections. Education goes along with condoms. You cannot avail condoms and not give education. We are saying condoms are the first step because we do not recognize that education is to be mentioned as a step of curbing new infections. Ladies and gentlemen, the affirmative side also mentioned lobbying. I would like to highlight to you that lobbying takes a lot of years, and in this instance, in this moment right now, someone in prison is actually getting infected, or at least the affirmative side is doing nothing about it. Adult human beings are sexual by nature. Prisoners are adult human beings. Thus, it is not far-fetched to claim that prisoners in Zimbabwe are driven by the same sexual nature as we all are. This, ladies and gentlemen, highlights that there is sexual activity going on in prisons. And despite the affirmative side's one-to-one lust for education, we are saying that if these guys are sexually active, we should give them a measure to protect themselves. We should give them, as the first step, ways in which they should curb these new infections in Zimbabwe. I'm glad that the affirmative side did not bring anything up about the law. It was a losing argument. So I would like to highlight more advantages about availing condoms in Zimbabwe. Firstly, availing condoms in Zimbabwean prisons, are fast and efficient, as in it's a fast method more than lobbying, and they're effective in that condoms hold a high degree of efficiency. Moreover, we should also recognize that Lesotho has already done it. Lesotho has set a precedence. They have availed condoms to their prisoners in recognition that condoms are an important first step towards the SDG goals that we are aiming for by 2030. With that, I would like to rest my case.
Thank you. Affirmative cross-examination starts now by student 2. It's a minute.
Mr. Speaker, are you aware of the LGQI statistics in Zimbabwe as compared to those in Lesotho?
No, I'm not.
If then, how do you know that people would definitely use those condoms, and what evidence is there to support your point, considering the fact that the statistics in Lesotho is 32% and that in Zimbabwe is less than 0.2%?
I'm saying that Lesotho is attempting to address the problem, while at least in Zimbabwe are doing nothing about it.
True or false, we have institutions which offer condoms, but we still have people who offer not to use those condoms.
It is just a first step, not a holistic step.
How then does it make sense if we give people condoms and they don't use those condoms? How are we actually preventing HIV?
You're neglecting the people that will actually use condoms. I said it's the first step of many, not just one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you are done sparring, I will take my time back. We shall have the opposers rebuttal by student number 2. That shall be 2 minutes, which starts absolutely now.
Okay. So the first thing is that I'm gravely questioning their school of thought. I mean, education. Really, this is a reactive measure. Reactive. It means that sex is already happening. I mean, and they are already spreading the diseases as it is. And then you want us to stand here and say, we are educating you. No, we have to provide condoms for them. And then we will say, education will come later. So I want you to understand something, right? You guys gave us no salient reason as to why education should be the first move. And can't we educate people after having given them condoms? The first basis is that we should educate them first, but we're not understanding that this is a reactive measure where we have to counter for those diseases that are already spreading right around in prisons. So we are saying that let's give them condoms, and after that we can be educating them. How long does it take, ladies and gentlemen, to do that? So what the team Affirmative is failing to realize is the agenda setting. They fail to understand the agenda setting. The agenda is based on the fact that we are already having diseases being spread in the prisons. And we have to avail condoms because the condoms are the measure that is going to ensure that diseases stop being spread. And we can always educate them, having given them the condoms, other than just sitting and folding our hands and saying, we will start by educating you. While it's after that, their instinctual gratification will tell them that, hey, you need to have sex. And they will have sex after you've volunteered with your education and failed to give them condoms, which they could have used. And as a matter of fact, we should pay attention to the fact that people are aware of condom and condom use. And yes, in as much as we feel like they can come and educate people about condoms, this is a measure that will come after having distributed condoms. So that's why we're saying that no, it is not a false start. And these guys have failed to understand the agenda setting, and everything that they have brought up on is now and void. Please listen to what we're telling you, because it's the fundamental basis of this argument. And we are telling you what should be done because it is the right thing that should be followed. Educating will come later.
And after that bit of education, the Affirmative shall give us a rebuttal by student 2. Again, 2 minutes, which starts now.
Now, allow me to start by shedding light upon the darkness that has been spread by the non-affirmative delegation. They came here to mention the fact that we didn't bring up anything about the law. Ladies and gentlemen, we're actually acknowledging the fact that the government criminalizes these homosexual acts, which is why we're saying that let us educate people in prisons whilst they're being given those condoms. We actually recognize organizations like SAYWHAT that recognize LGBTQI organizations, the minority section which is not being given attention, ladies and gentlemen. So we're saying that the moment that this activity is criminalized, these people will be ashamed to come out in the open and actually get that condom. So we're saying let us first legalize homosexuality in society so that these people can feel free to not be victimized for being homosexual. Then they'll be able to use those condoms. Otherwise, they will not use those condoms. They further on went to mention the point that condoms and education go in hand. Now they seem to be lost. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic states that availing condoms in Zimbabwe is a false start in curbing new HIV infections. Now, which is why we as the affirmative delegation came to mention that that we are not dismissing the use of condoms, but rather we're saying that it is not the first step to take. Before you avail those condoms, first educate the people about the problems of not using these condoms. Ladies and gentlemen, these people do not even know of anal rupture. Anal rupture, my ladies and gentlemen, they don't know of the intensity of the problems of not using those condoms, which is why we're saying first education, then give them those condoms, because without the education, they will not be able to use the condoms. Thus, their point holds no water, and it's like a fish dying without water. Moving on, they further went on to say that lobbying takes time. Ladies and gentlemen, lobbying began a long time ago. You came to tell us to listen to what you're saying. We have listened. Now allow us to educate you. Lobbying began a long time ago, which is why we have organizations like SAYWHAT, my noble delegation, organizations that are recognizing all sexes, ladies and gentlemen, which is why we're saying that that lobbying began a long time ago and is in process and is going to bring further enhancements in our country. Thank you.
Our clock has ruptured. I just had to do that. I just had to do that. I just had to do that. Wow, yeah. Affirmative rebuttal. Student 2, give us 2 minutes. Sorry, that should be your closing statements. Absolutely. That was another rupture. Opposers' closing remarks. Student number 1, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we deserve to win this debate is because, as we have highlighted before, education is a weak attempt. Education is a weak start. We believe that we should provide condoms because we assume that people already know the use of condoms. And she has been highlighting time and again that condoms are not going to be taken. Yes, but she's neglecting the fact that there are people actually going to take these condoms. And on the issue of legality, we have said that it has been done before. It is being done by someone else. Hence, in Zimbabwe, you do not, after availing condoms, you do not have to worry much about the legality of the issue. Ladies and gentlemen, lobbying takes time. She has recognized it herself that it has taken a long time for SAYWHAT to get to where they are. And no one knows how long it will take till they get to the point where they want to be. Ladies and gentlemen, this means that whilst they are lobbying, dancing on the street and doing whatever they may, we are providing condoms and protecting lives. We are providing condoms and preventing new infections. Ladies and gentlemen, the affirmative side has already acknowledged that prisoners do have sex. If they acknowledge that prisoners do have sex, I guess they should acknowledge that prisoners do actually need the protection when they're in sex. Hence, affirmative side, I would like to close by telling you that this fish is actually swimming.
This fish is swimming. Opposers' closing remarks. And now we'll go to the affirmative closing remarks by student 1, and those 2 are 1 minute and 30 seconds, which starts now.
I'd like to take this opportunity to applaud the opposition delegation for one thing. They are very attentive listeners. Well, their understanding of the topic may not be the best in the world, but they're very attentive listeners. Now, they came to us and they're telling us that reactive is not that the provision of condoms is not reactive. Well, to react means to respond to something that is already happening. And you're giving people condoms because you've realized that they've already started having sexual relations in prison. So it is reactive. Now, they have told us that education alone does not work. Thank you very much. Welcome to the argument. That is exactly what we are saying. But we are saying that education is the first step. It will not work alone. Yes, we need the condoms, but education is the first step because the people who are in prisons may not know the things about how condoms can help them to enjoy themselves and how condoms can help them to get to where they need to become. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that they do not deserve to win this debate like they've told us because they did not define the motion. They do not have a clear understanding of the topic, unlike what we did. Now, we have provided that we are on the affirmative side of the fact that provision of condoms in Zimbabwe is a delusive beginning to lessening the intensity of new HIV infections, and we have given new points, some of them which have been largely untouched. For example, the one of choice, whereby we have said that the use of condoms is an issue of choice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, because of that, I believe that we have proven beyond reasonable doubt, and we still stand bold, firm, and unshaken, that the provision of condoms in Zimbabwean prisons is a delusive beginning to lessening the intensity of new HIV infections.
And that shall signal time. This is the National University Debate Competition. This has been, of course, round 1. sponsored by the Swedish Embassy in Zimbabwe, by SAYWHAT, and by the Norwegian Students and Academics International Assistance Fund. Of course, we've got a live studio audience and we've got you out there all over the world watching. We shall be taking a bit of a breather and we shall be coming back in a little over half an hour. What are we going to be doing? My friends from Lupane will know. We'll see you when you get back.